Hey guys, how would you like to go from this to this in one simple step? Interested? Well, I'm gonna tell you today. I always enjoyed creating a bit of mystery in my photographs. That's why I always try to have light interact with shadows as much as possible and have my subject lit in the way so it's really separated from the background. And one of the main techniques I've been using to darken the background is actually very simple. You only need one little thing, which is this. My camera is not focusing on it. This is an ND filter. This little fella never leaves my camera, ever. Now, before we go ahead and talk about use of this filter in my photography, I would like to have a very quick base explanation to you how this interacts with all the other elements in the scene. Now, this only applies if you are using off-camera flash. You need to remember that when using off-camera flash, the shutter speed controls the brightness of the whole scene. And once you bring in an external flash to light the subject, the amount of light reaching your subject is then controlled by the aperture of your camera, of your lens. So by using this, we are darkening the whole scene. And then by using flash, we only light our subject. Now I have one of those for each of my lenses, and this particular one is an 8-stop filter, so it darkens the scene quite a lot. So the way it works, you pop this little fella in front of your lens and the whole scene goes 4 stops darker, so pretty dark. And from there you can start building your scene the way you want it. Remember, the whole scene is as dark as you choose it to be by using this on your lens. So step by step would be, you put this filter in front of your lens and the whole scene darkens by 4 stops, which is quite a lot. If you find the scene then too dark and losing too much in it, there's a few things you can do. You can drop your shutter speed, but be careful not to go lower than, I usually stick around 125, maybe 100 of the second. You can crank up your ISO slightly up. With our current cameras, you can go pretty high with ISO without getting too much noise in the scene. But again, remember, the shutter and ISO will brighten the whole scene back up, so you need to be careful with that. The only time I use those two is when my ND filter darkens the scene too much and I pretty much lose everything in the background and there's no distinguishable elements anymore. And then once we have that sorted, we can bring in an off-camera flash, which will then only light your subject, because flash strength is only controlled by the aperture of the camera. So the background will stay as dark as you set it up in the first step. And then you can start separating your subject from the background using your off-camera flash. So it is really very simple, but it's been a really neat trick and it pretty much built my style in a very simple and inexpensive way. Just one simple filter. It couldn't be easier. So yeah, that was a short little video to hopefully give you a little bit of an insight of how I construct my shots and add a bit of depth in your own shots, because scenes lit by one and the same light source can be a bit flat and boring. And using this simple trick, you can construct the scene the way you see it in your own head and highlight only the elements that you want to be highlighted. Simple, effective, and pretty awesome. My buddy Niall was kind enough to step in front of the camera just to show you the difference between the shots with the filter and without the filter. And man, this guy loves being in front of a camera. I'm not supposed to show you these, but have a look. Are you still here? Good. I forgot to say goodbye. See you next week.